Hey guys, Hector Deville here. I've decided to record a quick video drawing my own levels of support and resistance in a few charts, just so you have a few, a few examples as of how I personally do it. Okay, in a previous video we've gone through all the theory as far as drawing support and resistance levels. Now let's get down to business. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is to simply flip through a number of different currency pairs. Okay, and I'm gonna draw the most significant levels of support and resistance in different time frames. I'm just gonna, just not to overextend this video too long, I'm simply going to go about drawing the long-term levels of support and resistance. Again, you can conduct this exercise in no matter the time frame. All right, I'm just gonna do it in the daily, weekly, and monthly. But like I say, you can totally do that on any time frame of your choice. Okay, depending on whether you are an intraday trader, a long-term trader, etc., etc. All right, so right now we are looking into the American dollar against the Japanese yen. I'm gonna flip into the daily time frame to see what we've got here. All right, this is the Japanese yen daily time frame. We have an uptrend. Seems like we are now going into a retracement mode. Okay, so far what I see here is a former trend line. Okay, there. That obviously got broken. In fact, I'm gonna show you the actual trend line right there. That would be this trend line. Perhaps I could even make it a little tighter in there, but at any rate, it's already broken. And as I mentioned on a previous video, broken trend lines are usually significant only immediately after the breakout, in case we get a breakout and then a retracement to retest the trend line from below, okay, or from above if we are talking about a downtrend line. Right after the breakout, we wait for the pullback and see if price is retesting that trend line from the upside. Okay, at any rate, price has already gone all the way down here. By the time it comes to retest this trend line from below, well, probably would have to score a new high. All right, a new high, and therefore if price begins printing new highs, okay, it means that the downtrend is not really over. It means that it was just going through a simple pullback, right? So what I'm getting down to is that I can simply delete that trend, that particular trend line. Apart from that, we obviously have the highest point for the yen on the daily time frame right there, and I'm gonna mark it in blue as I usually do for I mentioned in a previous video that I like to color code my levels of support and resistance. There is also this low level here. I'm gonna also mark it in blue, even though that level may also be found on the weekly time frame. Okay, let's take a look at the weekly time frame right there. We do, even though in the weekly time frame I kind of like this level better. All right, in fact, we can see how we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 specific price points bottoming out at around the same level, which is around the 7600 level. So what I am going to do is in fact mark a weekly resistance area around this level. Sometimes you get a level of support and resistance, sometimes you get an area. An area is basically the same thing, just that different price points, price swings don't quite match right to the pip, right, on the same specific price level, and therefore what we have is more of an area of support than an actual line of support. All right, the markets are not perfect. We cannot always expect every single price swing to top out or bottom out, such as it is this case, at the same specific price level, and therefore we have maybe an area, maybe a 50 pip area where support is to be found in this market. At any rate, I'm gonna mark it in red. All right, just to identify that this support area belongs to a different time frame, not to the daily anymore, but perhaps to the weekly, and also I have that level there. All right there as the absolute maximum, okay, for the weekly time frame. We also have this specific level there, all right, which also worked as resistance, sorry, as support there, perhaps there, all right. So we kind of also have this, obviously these ones and this one doesn't matter anymore since they've been broken, but this one is still valid, right? Meaning that this level is still to be considered as former support. Now, who knows, price might bounce off that level to the upside once again, confirming the principle of former resistance now working as support. At any rate, I want to keep it in mind, okay? And that's pretty much what I see on this chart, all right? Like I say, daily resistance in there, weekly area of strong support. In fact, remember, the more times one specific level is tested, the stronger it becomes, or I wouldn't say the stronger, I would say the more significant and obvious to the market as a whole. All right, multiple price points or price swings bottoming out at that specific level. So certainly we want to mark this one as a strong level of support, this one as well, and the absolute maximum. Now let's flip into the monthly time frame. Okay. Well, we see a strong trend line there. I'm gonna mark it, and I'm gonna mark it in green. There we are. Okay. Now, this trend line has already broken. It worked as resistance there, there, and there, but it's, let me clean up my chart. Now it's broken. All right. Well, I could keep it just to identify, just to remember myself that this long trend line we've seen, in the market for such a long time is now, it's now basically broken. And perhaps in the shorter time frames, I would favor, right? I would favor long entries rather than short entries, considering that, well, this massive trend is a downtrend is now broken. What else do we have here? Okay, do you see how this specific level was working as support there, and now it became resistance there? All right, you see, former level of support got broken and retested right there, and it held price. Okay, therefore this is not anymore a weekly level of support and resistance. In fact, now this is a monthly level of support and resistance. Do you see how we readjust our support and resistance analysis as we flip through different time frames? Okay. Why do we want to continue readjusting our levels of support and resistance as per the time frame? Well, I already talked about this on a previous video, because the longer the time frame a specific level belongs to, the stronger it becomes. A monthly time frame level of support and resistance is stronger than a weekly time frame level of support and resistance. Okay, so this is pretty much what we have. Perhaps we could consider this one also as a monthly time frame support. Let me actually flip back into the weekly. I'm just trying to determine whether I like this specific level better on the weekly or on the monthly. I'm gonna turn it into the monthly. Why? Well, because it's the absolute low point for this entire monthly downtrend. Okay, this is the bottom of the entire monthly downtrend, and therefore I want to mark it as a monthly significant level. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That's all the lines that I would draw on my charts. Okay, certainly this specific level of support and resistance which I marked in the weekly is not really significant on the monthly. Okay, it doesn't belong to any significant swing point in the monthly time frame, therefore I will leave it as a weekly level of support and resistance. All right, and that's basically it as far as the Japanese yen. You see, it's taken just 2-3 minutes. Okay, and now I can go about drilling down into the daily, into the 4 hours time frame, into the 1 hour time frame, whatever my trading system dictates, and now I can start taking trades as per my system, knowing that I've mapped out. Okay, I have totally mapped out the most significant levels, and now I know where I am in the charts. All right, like I said before, now I know that the downtrend, the former long-term downtrend, has been broken. Moreover, if I flip into the weekly time frame, I know that I had a nice swing to the upside. That's going now through a retracement. Perhaps we may find indeed support at this specific level, and from there I may be able to see a bounce and therefore search for long opportunities according to whatever system I may decide to trade, but I may be getting healthy, solid, long opportunities on all this portion of the trade, of the chart. Okay? All right, let's go into the next chart. Okay, Swissy, the American dollar against the Swiss franc. Let's pull the daily time frame. What do we have here? Well, we have a trend line there, don't we? It's long broken, so we can totally delete that one. We also have this almost double top, all right? They both come more or less. Let me actually draw that. You see how they both almost come around the same level. Therefore, what we have there is some sort of a resistance area rather than a specific level, but nonetheless, they are close enough to be considered as the same, one area of resistance. Okay, I would totally be able to consider both of them belonging to the same specific resistance area or level. We also obviously have that one there. So I am to market, isn't it? There we are. I also have this one here. Okay, that level of support in there. These are way too far now to be considered as one single level. Okay, so I have to mark two different levels right there. Now you may be considering whether this is a trend line. Now, I don't think that's a trend line, to be honest, because in order to have a trend, you want to have price printing higher highs and higher lows, okay? Higher lows and higher highs, or lower lows, lower high, lower low, lower high, and so on and so forth. Here, price is simply seems like it's kind of compressing sideways. So at the very most, what we could have perhaps is a triangle, right, where price is simply compressing sideways. However, we don't quite have a price swing point at that level. Price is too fresh to determine any swing point in there or in there. So for the time being, I'm just gonna let it go there. Okay, let's take a look at what we have in the weekly time frame. Okay, we have this one here, but that got broken once and then twice. All right, so I'm not going to take that one into consideration. I'm certainly going to take that one into consideration down there, right there. And as usual, let's mark it in, let's say, red color. Okay, another former trend line that got broken a long time ago. No need to plot that trend line anymore. We have a minor swing point there. It's just a retracement in this upswing. Sure, we could mark it, but just keep in mind that it's a minor point, a minor level. Okay, certainly not as big as these ones. Usually, absolute lows and absolute highs are stronger than mid-trend points. All right. Again, such as this one, that's certainly, not as significant as this one. Everybody can see this this swing point here, but I'm sure not every trader will mark that one. And remember what I mentioned on a previous video. The markets are all about human psychology, all right? The more traders marking a specific level of support and resistance in their respective charts, the stronger it becomes, because more eyeballs will be laid and onto that specific level. So whenever you draw a line, you have to ask yourself, what are the chances that other traders are spotting this level, right? Everybody's certainly seeing this one. I'm not sure everybody will mark that one. All right, let's now mark the top of this, kind of upswing formation right there with another red line. All right, right there. Now let's flip into the monthly time frame. Okay, we seem, oops, just a second. Seems like we have some sort of a trend in there. All right, do you see that, guys? That trend is still in place. It has not been breached, and therefore I am to mark it, because price may find resistance once again off that level in the future, even though price is a long way behind or under that trend line. Hey, it never hurts to keep your charts mapped out, like I say, with all the significant points. Moreover, we have this level there. Price was forming some sort of a triangle before. See that triangle there? Eventually it broke. By the time price comes to retest that level, I don't know, it will probably find resistance from this downtrend line rather than from this one. But hey, I don't know, for the sake of accuracy, if you wish, we can certainly mark it. Now, do you see this phenomenon there? Okay, do you see how if I, that's why I want to keep broken trend lines in place, because sometimes, occasionally, as price breaks through a trend line, it comes, actually let me zoom in a little bit just to make sure you guys see that on the video. You see this triangle that I was mentioning before? Oops, sorry about that. So, one second guys, I need to untick the auto scroll feature. There we are. So, as price broke down that level, that trend line, it came back up to retest that trend line from below, and again, for the concept of former support working now as resistance, right? That's why you always want to keep your trend lines in place, even though they may have already been broken. Okay. Anyway, let me go back into my standard zoom level. Let me remove that. This level here, oops, just trying to delete that thing. This level actually becomes more obvious. I kind of like that one, that level better in the monthly than in the weekly. So I'm gonna turn that in green color again. Just to mark it as a monthly level. I would say that's pretty much it. I don't really see anything else here. So the American dollar against the Swiss franc has been completed. Okay, next, the Aussie Australian dollar against the American dollar. Let's take a look at what we see in this chart. Well, a beautiful trend, isn't it? Prototypical swinging formation. Okay, so I am to draw that trend line right there. In fact, it seems like the Aussie is breaching right now through the trend line upper level. Well, still too early to tell, really, but seems like, it's at least retesting that level. By the way, a tip, usually when you see a trend line or a trend as a whole in place, do search for channels, okay? Do search for channels, because more often than not, trends move within a channel rather than based on a single trend line. Okay, and by the way, those are the healthiest trends in my experience, those that that shape up as a channel formation rather than by a single trend line. Okay, anyway, moreover, we have this double top level there. All right, you see that double top level, former uptrend, typical double top formation. In fact, a channel price found exhaustion from the previous uptrend in a scenario, began moving sideways, the channel broke to the downside, and we began downtrending. This is what's basically this is a price action reading in its primest shape. Just take a look at what's been going on in the chart. see how price has been behaving, and that usually helps taking trading decisions in the right market direction, okay? Or what's the same, avoiding taking trades in the wrong market direction. So for example, if I was reading price in this specific currency pair, I was seeing this uptrend, then this sideways channel, which I am going to mark. All right, and as I saw the price breaking through the lower channel boundary and begin printing lower lows, lower highs, lower low, etc., etc., regardless of whatever trading system I may be using, I know that I want to favor short entries, okay, short signals given by my system over long signals. So by reading this type of, by conducting this type of price action exercise, I know that perhaps I may want to pass, okay, as this channel gave way to the downside, and after printing this double top and after breaking the channel to the downside, I know that perhaps I may want to pass on any long entry my system may signal, and I may want to only take short signals. That's a very, very good way of keeping your win-loss ratio as high as possible, okay? Firstly, do a little bit of price action reading exercise, and then take those signals given by your system that agree with your price action reading, okay, with your price action analysis. All right. Anyway, let's move on. I'm gonna mark that double top, as I said before. There we are. Sure, I could mark that a level, but this channel has long been broken. Okay, now we are certainly downtrending, so I I don't think price that level is significant anymore within the the bigger scheme of things. Okay. We have some sort of a double bottom right there, okay, where price found support. Especially that level will become significant if a price breaks the trend, as it will signal the very end of this trend. Okay, nonetheless, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna make just a quick line just to for the time being signal what's the absolute bottom level, the absolute support level for this downtrend. That's pretty much it. Let's now flip into the weekly time frame. All right, we have another resistance level around there worth marking. There we are in red color, in somewhere around there, just so it takes more or less both levels. Not gonna mark any of these two since price already broke up and down, even though it could also be seen more or less as an area, as one single level of resistance, but nonetheless, I've already marked that one. Here we have some sort of a trend line. Let me actually zoom in just to make sure you guys see it on the video. There we are. All right, and it seems like price has just basically broken it 2 candles ago. Okay, in a previous video I was mentioning that whenever two trend lines coming from different time frames clash onto each other, usually around 70% of the time the one coming from the longer time frame prevails, just because levels of support and resistance that belong to a higher time frame are certainly stronger, right? Well, this seems to be one of those cases where the 30% has prevailed indeed. All right, you see how they lower the down trend line has trumped the upward trend line, and therefore price has broken to the upside. This is not the norm, guys. Just because it has happened this time doesn't mean that it's the norm. Again, like I say, usually when two trend lines clash onto each other, the one coming from the longer time frame usually prevails. Okay, just so you keep that in mind. Anyway, I'm going to keep this one in my chart because price has just broken it, and therefore it may come up to retest that level, and from there we may see a bounce to the downside. Okay, so I want to know that price has some trend line resistance just above current market price. Okay, so let me scroll out, zoom out once again, and obviously I'm gonna mark this peak level down there. Okay, that bottom, that swing low in price, and now I'm gonna move into the monthly time frame. Well, in the monthly time frame, I'm actually going to transform that line from red to green, just because I like this top better on the monthly. Okay, totally marks this swing high, okay, and therefore I just like it better on the monthly. Now we also have a trend line here, all right. I'm gonna mark it again. I want to zoom in just because I don't know if you guys see this stuff in the video. I want to make sure that you guys see this, and I'm gonna turn the auto scroll feature off. There we go. Okay, there's that trend line right there. Okay, seems like price was about to breach through that level, but immediately after it came back up. Okay, so that's not really a trend line break. In order to determine or to signal a trend line as broken, you need to see a solid breakout, not this kind of stuff. Okay, this could easily be just a stop loss level. Whenever you see just a candle peeping through or peeking through the trend line very briefly, but immediately after resuming its swing above that trend line, we can't really say that that trend line has been broken in any way. Okay, so what we could do is probably to simply readjust it from this swing low to that swing low. Okay, so we do still have an uptrend line in the monthly time frame, and as I was mentioning before, you can usually, whenever you see a trend line, in fact, you can define a channel. All right, you see the channel. All right, we are still within that channel, and therefore, from an overall perspective, the Aussie on the very long time frame, in the monthly time frame, is still within an upward momentum, okay, within an upward move. All right, let me zoom out once again. We have this former level, but already got broken there. In fact, it got broken, but price upon beginning to retrace back down, it found support right there. You see, let me actually mark that. Price broke through that level, came back down, and as I was mentioning before, that's not really a breach. Okay, that's just a temporary, well, you know, a temporary overstretch of price movement below that level of support and resistance, but immediately after, price came back up, and therefore I am still to label that level of support and resistance as valid indeed. Okay, so I do know that at this specific level in the chart, price has, at least from a long-term perspective, has found both resistance and now support. So this is certainly a level that I want to keep in mind should price retrace back down. Okay, and that's basically it. Let me go back into the daily time. Oops, sorry about that. Into the daily time frame. I'm gonna enable the auto scroll feature on once again. Here we are, and well, by the way, I seem to be spotting here another level of support and resistance, which is this level. Okay, and in fact, it follows a similar price formation as what we saw at this junction of the chart. Okay, former uptrend followed by a double top congestion, basically a range. All right, and eventually the breakout of the range to the downside and the beginning of a downtrend. Well, take a look at what we have here. Downtrend, support, support, resistance, range, breakout of the range to the upside after a double bottom, and well, perhaps the beginning of an up move now. You see, down move, congestion, double bottom, breakout, and beginning of an up move. Then here, up move, congestion, range, double top, breakout of the range to the downside, and the beginning of a down move from there. Do you see how price patterns basically repeat itself, or rather repeat themselves over and over and over? This is the core principle of technical analysis, which is basically to analyze specific price patterns in order to be able to replicate them in the future and therefore to take advantage of those recurrent patterns, right? Well, I would certainly like to mark this. Actually, I'm going to mark it in blue, obviously, since we are now in the daily time frame. Okay? So, support, support, resistance, resistance, breakout. Very similar pattern as this one, just on a smaller scale. So we may see in this area, in this junction of the chart, some valid long opportunities if, obviously, this trend line here finally gives way. All right, so if price does breach through this area, here I will be looking to take long entries in the shorter time frames, according to whatever short-term trading system I may want to follow. The market flow, the London Open breakout, etc., etc. But at least I know from my price analysis, from my price reading analysis, that there may be some healthy long opportunities at this junction of the chart. Okay? Anyway, let's move on. Let's take a look at the loonie. By the way, in case you are not familiar with Forex lingo, the loonie is the American dollar against the Canadian dollar. Okay. Well, this is the 1 hour time frame. Like I said, I'm only going to do support and resistance on the longer time frames for this particular video. But as you can see, we are actually going through a similar formation that what we just saw on the other currency pair, on the previous one. An up move. Let me actually compress that. An up move. Congestion. Double top, we can define a congestion range, breakout of the range to the downside, and now I would not be surprised if we now continue seeing down moves in the near future. All right. So by analyzing price action, I can know that whatever signal my trading system may trigger at this point, I should only be taking short trades instead of long trades. Okay, so if my signal gives me a long entry, I know that that's a signal I don't want to take. If my system gives me a short entry, as per my price action analysis, that would be indeed a trade that I would want to take. Okay, that's why price reading is so important. Anyway, let's move into the daily time frame. Let's see what we have here. Former down move, now congestion sideways. Now we don't have a double bottom here. What we have is in fact a leaning trend line to the upside, and apparently price being price topping out at this specific level. Okay, seems like price up on this down move has been simply ranging sideways for quite a while, actually, in this upward leaning triangle. Let me define the boundaries of that triangle. All right, that being the lower end, the lower range band of the triangle, and this being the top band of the triangle. So this is basically a flat top triangle. All right, down move, a flat top triangle, and now we are to wait, obviously, to see at what level, what side the triangle is broken towards. Okay, either to the upside or to the downside. Pretty much the same thing as I said before. Since we are ranging, since price is moving sideways, if my trading system gave me any signal whatsoever at this junction of the chart, I would simply not take it, just because I don't like to trade. I don't like to take trades when price is simply entrapped within sideways ranges. Okay, if eventually I get a breakout to the upside, I would only be looking to take long entries. All right, if price breaks to the downside, I would only be looking to take short entries, signaled by my trading system. All right. Again, that's how our price action reading can help you maximizing your win-loss ratios. Anyway, let's now take a look at the weekly time frame. Let's see what we have here. Well, double bottom there, so that's another level I want to mark in my chart. Here we are, this time around in red. There we go. What else? What else? Well, there is some sort of an an uptrend, line actually, but that's long broken, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Seems like there is a downward trend line in there, so I'm also going to mark it in my chart in red. Okay. I would say that's pretty much it. In fact, this upper level of the triangle was formerly working as support. Do you guys see that? Support there, broken, now resistance, 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 right? So I would say that this level perhaps belongs to the weekly time frame rather than to the daily time frame. Okay. What else? What else? Resistance, support, support. Okay, you see that? A little sketchy, really not very sharp. Price wiggling around that level, wiggling again. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, now let's take a look at the monthly time frame. Monthly time frame. That level actually I like it better on the monthly time frame, so I'm gonna convert it into green. Obviously another swing low in there, very clear swing low there, so there goes another support line. If price eventually breaks through this level, I know that at least in the shorter time frames I will have room enough here to score some healthy short opportunities from this level down to this level. This area, is okay to search for short trades. Okay, I have obviously a very clear swing point as well there, so there goes another line. And well, we also find resistance in there and resistance in there, so that's another line that perhaps, another resistance line in my chart that perhaps I should mark. Right there. That's basically it. That's all I got for the Aussie. Okay, sorry, for the Aussie, for the loonie, the American dollar against the Canadian dollar. Okay, next, euro against the Japanese yen. Let's flip into the daily time frame. Let's see what we got here. Up move. This is funny. Okay, that's a trend line. Up move. Double, in fact, triple bottom, range, congestion, breakout of the range to the downside, and that gives way to a downswing. All right, see how price patterns repeat themselves over and over and over. Once you become familiar with this type of price action reading, all right, price action analysis, you will be able to see these kind of patterns very quickly. All right. And well, as this range breaks to the downside, it signals the very end of this upward move, and now you are to focus mostly on searching for short opportunities instead of long opportunities. Okay, anyway, so what do we have here? Well, like I said before, we have a trend line. All right, but anyway, that was it's broken, it's long broken, in fact. Now we could perhaps mark that channel top. In fact, it's a triple top right there. Okay, I'm gonna mark it in blue since we are in the daily time frame. There we are. Now we have this bottom as well, the range bottom right there, and there goes another, okay, double bottom there, and well, that's the breakout point. Apart from that, it seems like price is now finding support of this level. All right, I'm gonna mark it, just even though this specific this is not really a swing point, it's too near to current market price, we can't just yet established that price is going to indeed find support at that level, but at any rate we have a swing point there, a minor swing point, but nonetheless it's worth mentioning. Okay, if we break down through that level once again, just as we did here, we would be weighting short opportunities over long opportunities. Okay, that's what I see on the daily time frame. Obviously we have that that absolute low, but that probably belongs to the weekly time frame. Let's in fact take a look. Yeah, that belongs to the weekly time frame. So I'm gonna mark this level in red. There we are. What else do we have? Well, we have a former downtrend. Okay, as usual, more or less of a channel, even though that one is not really that clear. Moreover, we have this former level of support. It seems like it's working as support once again. Do you guys see that? Former level of support. Price came back up to retest it. It overshot it by a long stretch. Who knows? Maybe you see that long wick there. This is another side of price action reading to study the wicks of the candles. So former support, breakout, retest, long wick to the upside. This is probably stop loss hunting or perhaps a news announcement that shot price very quickly to the upside, but then technical analysis regained control of this scenario and price began pushing back down once again. Therefore, I still kind of deem this level as valid. The wicks, whenever you see just one single wick in your chart, you can't fully consider that as a breakout. All right, like I said, just perhaps a little bit of stop loss hunting there, perhaps a news announcement. But if you don't quite see a few candle closes above that level, if it's just a single wick of the candle, then we can't really label that as a breakout itself. All right, so price has been finding support, resistance, and now it seems like more or less support. This area around there, the 107, more or less 106.50, somewhere around there. This is an area of heavy support and resistance for the euro against the Japanese yen. All right, certainly worth taking a note of that specific price point in the future. All right, and obviously we would mark this one as well in the chart. Okay, and obviously this one as well. Do you guys see how price formed a double top at that level? So this price point does not belong to the daily anymore, but in fact to the weekly, and we are obviously to change colors. Beautiful. All right, next, monthly time frame. Let's see what we got here. So this level here, in fact, also belongs to the monthly time frame. Do you see how this support resistance area that I was mentioning before can be stretched back in time? All right, I'm just gonna do that. Just a second, guys. There we are. It can be stretched back in time, and therefore it deserves a green color. Right, so this whole level there has been a significant level of support, resistance, etc., in the long term, and therefore perhaps this level that I marked on the daily time frame, I should simply remove it and keep the one from the monthly time frame, and that's exactly what I am going to do. Okay, that's heavy support. Now it's not anymore just a daily support, a daily temporary support. It's now long-term strong support in there. All right. Okay, what else do we have here? We have this one, but price has been flapping up and down that level for so long that I just don't wanna, I'm just gonna let it go for the time being. We may also have some, oops, sorry about that, some trend line there broken already. Another trend line there. Let's see if that one is broken yet or not. I don't know, that seems a little sketchy, that trend line there. Yeah, okay, it got broken. Seems like now price is retesting it. Let me zoom in a little bit so I can squeeze that in the video. So you see how price broke up above that trend line. Now we've had a retest of that level. So at this specific price action, we have two levels of support. Not only this horizontal former level of support working, seems like it's working as support once again, but also we have the former resistance trend line that got broken, and now it seems like it's being retested from below. And from here, who knows, maybe if price begins to, in the shorter time frames, of course, this is a very long-term chart, but at any rate, if in the shorter time frames we see that price begins to curl up and to start trending up from there, this is an area where we may find some valid long opportunities, because price is bouncing from a double level of support. Okay, again, this horizontal level and also the trend line. Okay, let me go back to my normal zoom level there, and that's basically it. That's my analysis for this specific chart. Considering that we have, let me go back into the weekly time frame. Considering that we have resistance in there, what I would like to see at this junction of the chart is this breakout, pullback, perhaps a continuation pattern completing and breaking above this double top level. And do you see how there is no no further support or resistance area in this area, in this portion of the chart? Once we break free from this double top, obviously if we break free of that that area of resistance, but once price breaks free from that area, there is absolutely no further level of support and resistance that may meddle at all with any long trade, okay, with any buy opportunity we may find, we may signal from our trading system. And therefore, once price breaks above this level, I would totally favor long entries instead of short entries. So this is an area where I would like to follow, where I would like to trigger long opportunities all the way up to this level here. Okay, again, another clear example of how you can blend price analysis, price action reading with whatever trading system you trade. Okay, basically the price analysis gives you the overall direction of the market, the overall areas where you want to search for trades, and also obviously the direction of those trades, and your trading system itself signals where to enter the trade, where to place the stop loss, where to cash out your profits, etc., etc. Okay, so price analysis, price action reading should give you the overall scope, and the trading system in particular should give you the you should nail the entry and exit levels to jump in and out of the market, always in agreement, always in the direction of your price action analysis. Anyway, it's time to end this video. It's already running too long, and hey, anyway, we've already gone through a number of examples together, right? It's now time for you to take over and start drawing those levels of support and resistance in your own charts. Now, a word of warning, guys. At the beginning, it will look, or it will seem like a confusing task, okay? Don't get discouraged if at the beginning you don't know which lines to keep, which lines to remove from your charts, or whether this or that line belongs to the daily or to the weekly time frame. Don't worry, it's normal, okay? Like anything else in life that's worth your while, it will require a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, and a little bit of effort on your end. However, over time, trust me if I say that those lines or spotting those key levels of support and resistance will become far more intuitive, and you will need no more than 5 or 10 seconds per time frame to spot those lines. Okay, and get working, guys. Again, don't forget always to map out your, especially the longer time frames. Like I previously said in a previous video, those key levels of support and resistance are far more important, far stronger in the longer time frames than in the shorter time frames. So you always want to conduct this exercise on the daily, weekly, monthly time frame, regardless of whether you are a short-term trader or a long-term trader. It doesn't matter, right? You certainly want to map out your long-term charts with these levels of support and resistance. Okay? And as a final note, please remember that the whole point of conducting this price analysis exercise, okay, this price reading analysis, is to ensure, to make sure that you keep a high win-loss ratio in your system, okay, in your trading. And the best way to do that is to start filtering those signals given by your system, so you only take those signals, those trades that come in agreement with your support and resistance price analysis. So for example, let's imagine that you see, as I mentioned before, as I showed you in a previous example, that price is kind of entrapped within two long-term levels of support and resistance, and it's simply flip-flopping sideways in between those two levels. Well, perhaps it's time to stop taking any trade given by your system just because it's not, price is not at an ideal location in the chart, okay? It's simply squeezed between those two levels, and it's just perhaps not the best time to trade. And also, once price breaks, perhaps to the upside, then maybe you may want to only take long entries given by your signals and simply ditch, or simply not observe any short entry given, okay, by your signals. Conversely, if you get a breakout to the downside, well, guess what? You may want to only take sell signals at this junction of the chart. You see? So basically what you would do is to simply combine your trading system with your price reading analysis. So, again, the price reading analysis and the long-term levels of support and resistance dictate the market direction, and your trading system dictate the entry, the exit, and the stop loss levels. You see, you blend both approaches so they complement each other, and therefore, as a result, your win-loss ratio will significantly improve. Trust me on this one, guys. Okay, that's all for this video. Cheers. Bye-bye.